Happy Monday. Hi, everyone. Another sunny day. Okay, so while we're waiting for more awesome, magnificent beings to join us, I have a joke. I think the only joke that I actually remember was from when I was a kid. What do you get when your cheese whiz is all gone? Cheese whiz. So this joke here, I have actually written it out on my computer. So I'm just going to share with you. I think it's really good. So while we're waiting, okay. While walking down the street one day, a high-ranking politician is tragically hit by a truck and dies. His soul arrives in heaven and is met by St. Peter at the entrance. "Welcome to heaven, St. Peter," says St. Peter. "Before you settle in, it seems there's a problem. We seldom see a high official around these parts, you see, so we're not sure what to do with you." "No problem, just let me in," says the politician. "Well, I'd like to, but I have orders from higher up. What we'll do is have you spend one day in hell and then one day in heaven. Then you can choose where you'd like to spend eternity." "Really? Well, I've made my mind up. I want to be in heaven," says the politician. "I am sorry, but we have rules." And with that, St. Peter escorts the politician to the elevator, and he goes down, down, down to hell. The doors open, and he finds himself in the middle of a green golf course. In the distance is a club, and standing in front of it are all his friends and other politicians who had worked with him. Everyone's very happy and in evening wear. They run to greet him, hug him, and reminisce about the good times they had while getting rich at the expense of all the people. They play a friendly game of golf and then dine on lobster and caviar. Also present is the devil, who is really funny, and he's a very friendly guy who has a good time dancing and telling jokes with them. They are having such a good time that before he realizes it, it's time to go. Everyone gives him a big hug and waves while the elevator rises. The elevator goes up, 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 and the door reopens on heaven, where St. Peter is waiting for him. Now it's time to visit heaven. So 24 hours pass with the politician, head of state, joining a group of contented souls, moving from cloud to cloud, playing the harp and singing. They have a really good time, and before he realizes it, the 24 hours have gone by and St. Peter returns. "Well then, you've spent a day in hell and another in heaven. Now you choose your eternity." The politician reflects for a minute, then the head of state answers, "Well, I would never have thought it. I mean, heaven was delightful, but I think I would be better off in hell." So St. Peter escorts him to the elevator, and he goes down, down, down to hell. Now the doors of the elevator open, and he is in the middle of a barren land covered with waste and garbage. He sees all his friends dressed in rags, picking up the trash and putting it into black bags. The devil comes over to the politician and lays an arm on his neck. "I don't understand," stammers the politician. "Yesterday I was here and there was a golf course and a club, and we ate lobster and caviar and danced, and we had such a great time. Now all there is a wasteland full of garbage, and my friends look miserable." The devil looks at him, smiles, and says, "Of course. Yesterday we were campaigning. Today you voted for us." Yeah, that's how it works, right? So anyone who's voting for a politician, they're doing such a great job campaigning. But of course, we know every time we vote, we're saying yes to staying in Babylon. Just saying. Okay. Welcome to Life First Canada. I'm Karen Claassen. We are here reminding you to step in across the bridge into a parallel society. We are taking one step at a time, unplugging from that corrupt system, Babylon, and we know that it does take time. Now, I have the replay of Cal Washington's interview on our Life Force Canada YouTube channel for those who missed it. He shared many truths with us and reconfirmed many truths, of course, that we've been talking about for a very long time, such as Canada is not a country. It is the Hudson Bay Company, the pirates, right? The merchants in commerce. There is no Canadian Constitution. Learning more about creating notice of liability. Yes, powerful. And that we do not need to claim our birth certificate. We can use it as an instrument. And of course, do not vote. We all know this. And there's no parliament. Yes, the British North American Act creates parliaments, and that got repealed in 1993 by the Queen Victoria. So he reminded us that in 1868, the British Parliament created the Rupert's Land Act to allow the Hudson's Bay Company to sell off land back to the monarch, Queen Victoria. So the following year, Hudson's Bay Company finalized the transaction by signing the deed of surrender. And I'm just summarizing. Now, in 1871, Queen Victoria transferred the use of those lands to the Dominion of Canada, operated by the Governor-General, to settle the land and create the Western provinces. The allodial title would then be held by the Court of Chancery for the British Empire until 1931. However, in 1901, with the Queen Victoria's death, the repeal of Section 2 of the PMA Act came into force, deliberately leaving the Dominion of Canada without a monarch. To this day, the PMA Act repeal has never been reenacted, and only the monarch applies to the Queen Victoria. So Trudeau patriot the defunct PMA Act in 1867 to Canada. So upon returning, Trudeau convinced all the provinces to ratify the deception of the new constitution. But without the provinces ratifying this act of a foreign parliament, it could not become supreme law, law of the sea. Here in Canada, all the provinces, with the exception of Quebec, signed off, but the Constitution Act was never ratified, and there's no standing here in the land known as Canada. So again, we know, right? Canada is not a lawfully established sovereign nation. It is a corporation known as Hudson Bay Company. It was such a great call with Cal. I just look forward to having him back on again. So we need to remind ourselves that everything we see is theater, right? Parliament is theater. They all have scripts. Everything we see in the news is theater, all designed to get you emotionally drawn in and acquiescing. Okay, speaking of acquiescing, I know we've talked briefly about the MAID. It is a depressing subject, but I'm hearing how the assisted suicide service is really skyrocketing in Canada, and I just want to briefly talk about it for a moment. Again, I don't know if you saw this, but the National Post columnist Barbara Kay, let me repeat that. National Post columnist Barbara Kay mentioned a couple months ago that 1 out of 10 deaths in Canada are now assisted suicides. And they, of course, have the 18-year-olds can now give their consent. Parents will not have a say at all whether their child takes their life or not. So I just want you to remind everyone, if you know someone who's going through depression, or they have said the words they want to commit suicide, that on a spiritual realm, they will reincarnate right back into a world that is even more challenging than the one they are leaving. There are many people who've had near-death experiences, and this is the communication coming back from them, right? They say that the soul will be born, reincarnated instantaneously in a far worse condition. So like being born in a country where at age 5, if you're going to be slaving in a lithium mine. So suicide is never the answer. The Dark Lords of this realm want the humanity to commit suicide because they capture the soul and they work you as a slave, right? They want you to choose this. And I know many are experiencing really deep depression, and it can feel like there's no light at the tunnel right now, but many are not taught that within natural law, the principle of law of rhythm, that nothing stays the same. It only appears the same if we do not tap into our divine mind. Otherwise, then we become a part of the rhythm of the environment, and that's what they want us to become. They want us to become a part of the rhythm of the environment instead of the true natural law rhythm of life, where we're tuning in, right, to the spirituality, to the divine nature of who we are. And so it's remembering that cycles ebb and flow. We can experience low times, but again, please reach out if you're feeling depressed. Do not let that voice of the demons win. We all need to be saying right now, I choose life. Life is worth living no matter what we're experiencing right now, okay? So let's everyone just breathe in life force energy. And letting go. Breathing in again slowly. We are awakening to our soul force power, and we are creating heaven on earth. And as we unplug from this corrupt matrix, right, it all starts within. It's all about living in the heart and expanding our heart energy out into the world. We're moving out of fear to love, and as we ascend, right, we ascend the lower worlds of chaos and lower thought forms. So we're really here to expand our capacity to see that there's more than just this physical reality. Cal Washington spoke about that a little bit too, right? So it's really reminding ourselves that the physical reality is like 10% of the full light spectrum, that there's so much more to what meets the eye. Okay. Okay, that's what I wanted to share. Karen Hanna has an update.
Hi, yes, I do. Thank you. Just want to announce that we're making some changes with the Life Force Canada Education Forum. We will, instead of the Zoom meetings every 2 weeks, we'll be posting a video in the Telegram forum, or perhaps an article that will be there for everyone to contribute their ideas and responses and that sort of thing, so that we can have that conversation on Telegram rather than having the Zoom meetings every week. So watch for it in the LFC Education Forum, either Tuesday or Wednesday morning. We'll be posting a special post, and we'll be pinning it to the top as well, so that you can join in on that conversation. Thank you, Karen. I thought I yield.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you to Hella for her time, her energy, her effort in the Education Forum. We so appreciate everything that you've done. And I get it. We all need to take a break. So yes, thank you, Karen Hanna, for letting everyone know how we can just pivot. It's really important to keep the information going in our Education Forum 100%. We need to protect our children and exit from that public school system. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen and a video here. I'm not too sure how many of you have seen on our Life Force Canada website. I did post it. It's only about a 5-minute video. It's of Keith, and he's in the court, and the judge actually leaves the court. He's a man standing in his sovereignty in that video, and he has now let go of his legal name. He's transitioned over. He refers to himself now as Kate. It's K-A and then -T-E. And this is him talking about Babylon is fallen. It's really powerful because he shares here the magic, the master key. And the master key is, and I'm going to let that roll right now.
Babylon is fallen by Kate of Gaia. 1. Name. The master key to the entire system's Crown Corporation's game. The name is the linchpin to the entire legal control construct. Without a legal name, which is your consent by agreeing to be said name, the system vampires cannot literally feed on your lifeblood creation source energy that is typically shown in the physical materials we collect. It is only the consent to be, use, or have a legal name, mark of the beast, that is required for your absolute spiritual contract, deal with the devil motif, to be in full force and effect, with you as a slave and them as masters. For proof of this, look and see how much of your life or existence involves a legal name, and you will see the measure of control the system has over you. 2. Register, registration, etc. Any and all things registered are fully surrendered with consent to the Crown Corporation, with no legal recourse until such things are removed by exposing the intent by those who serve the Crown Corporation to commit fraud knowingly or unknowingly. Example, a child that is registered is Crown property by ignorant consent where the truth of registering was not brought forth, which is the original intent by Crown Corporation servant owners to have people offer their children unknowingly into slavery of soul and thus body. It's the soul they're really after, so keep that in mind. 3. Money, gold, silver, assets, Bitcoin, etc. are all illusions of value where you are the true creator of all physical manifestations. Money, external value, has been the tool as a third-party interloper, middleman, that has made draining you of power possible. Money or the like only has a value if one has been duped into thinking it does. This illusion is the ultimate distraction and destroyer of creator souls, literally. All money is based on the soul contract, commonly known as a birth certificate. 4. Birth certificate. The original sin contract. The name you think or claim as yours is not your creation. Your assumed name was created by your parents or family members or adoptive kin, not you. This is an original creation manifested by another that is in turn registered, thus rendering it Crown Corporation property, as previously stated. It is upon this deception that your literal soul was and is enslaved, and upon which all money and debt is created. A debt bond value is placed in the birth certificate based on the assumed accruement of taxes, loans, debts a child is expected to pay as long as they are part of this fraud upon humanity. Example, if someone is expected to pay a certain amount of taxes, etc. in their lifetime, the bond is given a debt value. A child born into a wealthy family will have a higher debt bond value than someone who is of a lesser perceived income bracket rating. This is slave trading at its finest, which divides and conquers humanity in the serf caste hierarchy system that encompasses the planet. 5. Command and control. The courts and governments are the system's slaves within, bought and paid for, where the true command and control aspects are the police and military as the frontline dogs and fear contractors for those above the courts and governments, such as the banks and religion, and those that control them. The courts and governments are merely the filler for this sandwich of deception and illusion. Without the ability to contract via any and all names at the frontline level, the whole system of control is destroyed. Most importantly, those at the very top of this spiritual slavery pyramid. Without the name, all levels above are ultimately annihilated completely. 6. The Triple Crown. This consists of Rome, City of London, Crown Corporation, and Washington, D.C. They are the unholy trinity of the 3 in 1, 1 in 3, as illustrated clearly in the Papal Crown. Religion to control the beliefs, minds, and spirituality of humanity. The courts and banks to control the money and bonds, and the world police, military, to quash rebellion and act as frontline contractors of soul extraction. 7. Principalities of darkness. This is the true nature of the game that the vastness of humanity is blind to. Religions have been used to separate you from source by making one believe God is external and use the savior program to reinforce this. Money is the tool that is used to keep people in the physical only realm by getting them to equate an external value on everything, where nothing would exist without the people and their creativity. Physical death and harm is the tool used to clamp down on your true essence, which is all creation itself. The tools employed are languages with the corruption of pure frequency and sense, with multiple meanings of the same sounds and frequencies, using words and spellings, literally, thus dividing and conquering us and redirecting our energy into their creations and control. These entities cannot create anything since they are soulless and thus utterly powerless. They know this, and they're absolutely terrified because this spells their doom once and for all. We are life with consciousness, where these entities are consciousness without life, soul, or spirit. They are completely and solely dependent upon getting our consent or spiritual contract agreement. And this is easily achieved through the name deception, buying people off, ego comforts, etc. Their whole house of cards and pyramid is based on this fact. We are the fuel for their system and vehicle. Without spiritual fuel, they're destroyed. The biggest program that we run into with the masses, is the sheer disbelief of their own power and who they truly are. A masterful job has been done to get humanity to this level of spiritual weakness and complete ignorance. This was the intent of corrupting the ancient truth, rewriting our past and presenting this in schools, churches, and all levels of ego academia. Repeat a lie often enough, and people will believe it. It is far easier selling a giant lie to the masses than selling us one by one. The media is the main tool of thought direction and manipulation to reinforce the lies we were filled with as children and up to our current state. We have many soulless entities on this planet, with the vast majority being placed in positions of power and control, be it police, courts, media, churches, government, schools, military, at all levels. Fear is their only tool, and once one sees their true immortal nature, one becomes untouchable, literally. The mass hypnosis of humanity is deep, and you will meet all levels of resistance from friends, family, co-workers, etc. So don't bother trying to wake the consenting to be dead. The facts to prove this are all there for all to see, so it is up to them to look, not you. Simply plant the seed and walk away. They are the same as the ones in the allegory of Noah that came to the ark too late. Let them drown. We are now at the culmination of destroying these entities once and for all, and they are pulling out all the fear porn, illusion, and desperation plugs, and in that process, they're sinking their own ship, where I merely hand them a better plug puller now. You, and only you, can save yourself, and no one else, so stop killing yourself trying. Let the dead bury the dead, and perhaps they'll get it on the next pass, but they are not your concern. Stay the course. The path home is the one of truth only, and nothing else. Your willingness to stand in truth is yours alone, and to the degree that you stand will be the same degree that you become untouchable spiritually and, as a result, physically. As above, so below after all. There is no middle ground here. You're either in or out of Babylon. You are either master or slave, mortal or immortal. The soul, you, are infinite, where the body is merely a biological computer you operate. Your computer was infiltrated and corrupted, reptilian brainstem, fused chromosomes, and separated from the heart source mind. The soulless ones cannot experience compassion, so don't expect them to. They are the same as the Terminator droids in the movies, programmed to control and kill without remorse, and are easy to spot. They are everywhere, including your own family, friends, etc., and all you have to do is feel your way through. Let your instincts and your heart be your guide. We are clearing this reality of these parasites exponentially now, where universal law reigns supreme, where none shall or can trespass. They are masters of deception, so do not let your loving compassion be used against you, something that has been their most powerful tool. The Bioborg entities are already lifeless and are dependent only on being able to suck the life out of you. But like every vampire, they cannot enter your reality without an invitation. Every use of the legal name is the only invitation they need. So best cut your ties and consent with that. Just get this concept, and you have already cut the puppet strings, and your causal ability returns instantly in relation to your ability to be responsible with that ultimate of power. To the walking dead, and you know what you are. Your time is over. Your deceptions are powerless, and now, moment by moment, you are being erased from consciousness for the invading parasites you are. We of the living soul are awake, aware, and reclaiming our reality, where yours never existed. In short, yes, you are doomed. Have a nice day. Kate.
And that leads us right into a perfect conversation with Laura Jane, empowering you, if you have a business still in the public jurisdiction, to cross the bridge over into the private, the living jurisdiction. So Laura Jane, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Karen. That was quite the video. Very appreciated. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. All right, so what I wanted to talk about, I have a little primer that I'm going to go through for anyone who is not familiar with a membership association. Just sort of go through the basics for private member associations. And then basically, I think we'll do this, and then they'll do some Q&A, because a lot of times it's the questions that are very powerful. So private member association is something that actually, there we are. It dates back quite a ways. In fact, the actual history goes back into the 1500s. However, the voluntary private membership that we are more familiar with is traced to the 1800s. That was what was referenced in modern times as modern times. All the private membership associations or private PMAs were all begun as charities, many of them through churches or through benefactors. And the purpose of these private associations was all about helping mankind. So they were formed to be beneficial to mankind. The government, when it was formed, they saw this as an opportunity to create a power structure and to make money. So what they basically said to the charities was, look, we're going to take over and we can reach so many more, and we can bring in so many more resources that we will continue your good work, but we will continue it on a much greater level. And so a lot of charities that moved into the public, into the government, and the government took over the private associations. And of course, we know what happened there. PMAs is an exercise of our God-given or universal or creator of freedoms. And they are all based on private agreements with a man or woman. So a PMA is nothing to do with public. It is in the private, and it only deals with the man or the woman, right? And PMAs are outside government interference or overreach. The government is what we call a public domain, and that is one which is man-made laws. And with the PMA, they only exist within the private domain, which is natural law or God's law or common law. You'll hear it referred to in that way as well. So what is it? A private membership association or a private member association is man and womankind collectively asserting and standing upon their unalienable God or universal rights and freedoms for a common cause or community. When I talk about unalienable rights, and these are rights that can never be given up or taken away. They are fundamental rights that every man or woman has claim to by being born. We're born with them. So they can never be granted. They are not a privilege, nor can they ever be taken away. We have, however, as the previous video said, we have voluntarily released or given them up. They are the basis for moral interactions between men and women and are irrevocable. So that means that we just are expressing our unalienable rights. That's what we're here to do and how we do it. And so, yes, they are a big deal. Every man and woman is born in the private with these fundamental God creator or universal given rights. I'm not sure which word you like, but fill in the one that works for you. And so what they mean is that you have absolute authority and control over your health and body, mind, and spirit. This is what we were born to know. We have absolute freedom to associate and assemble with other men and women of our own choosing. We hold our own beliefs and thoughts, and we express our thoughts and opinions freely. So these are all part of what we are reinforcing when we're doing a private member association. So a private member association is technically a business model for the New Earth. And what it does require, however, is a lot of things. It requires a mindset change. We need to actually deprogram from always seeking permission from government agencies. You'll hear people say, oh, well, I can't do that. I have to check first to see if I'm allowed to do that. Well, if you're talking about setting up a business, why do you have to check with anybody? It's like saying, you know what, I just bought my own home. I'm going to have a party and I have to, wait a minute, I have to check to see whether or not I can have a party. I have to see whether or not I can paint the wall that color. I have to see whether or not I can plant flowers or vegetables in my yard. So it's really a mind shift change and taking back our power. And it also requires a lot of self-awareness, self-responsibility, and self-governance, which is actually the discipline of awareness and responsibility. So it does require that, because if you do not know yourself, then you will not know what you are offering of benefit to mankind, nor will you know how to stand in your power if at any time you are ever challenged in your private member association. A PMA is a declaration of living in the private. And that means that when we say that, what we're basically telling the government or the public is that we will not be a burden to the public. We're not expecting any government public protection. We're not going to accept any benefits that we may tacitly have previously agreed to contract for, and we will not tolerate interference with our private members. A PMA is founder created and member supported. It is not a democracy. People often mistake that, but the founder is the one who is putting forward their energy, expressing their soul's desire, and opening it up to others that would like to share in that. And so that's how it is supported. So just to be clear what we mean between public and private domain. I like to think of the public domain as the child mindset, which is where we have been brainwashed into for millennia. And then the private is us growing up, and stepping out. And that's the adult mindset. So in the public, we have government. And that means that's the world of statutes, acts, mandates. In the private, it's self-governance. That requires, of course, self-discipline. In the public domain, we seek permission, and we get it through things like permits. We get it through licenses. We get it through certificates. Just think about when you get into and you get a marriage certificate. A marriage certificate is between you, your spouse, and the government, 3 in a bed. So the private, no permission is needed. And we can do lawful marriages without permission. So the other part about public is that they control and they impose that control through threats, coercion, and violence. And we've seen a lot of that in the last 3 years. They've stepped it up and they're going to continue. In the private, we are naturally following ethical and moral rules. You ask a child in the playground what's right, what's wrong, they can tell you. We're born with that innate ability. In the public, there are no rights, only privileges granted. And of course, if a privilege is granted, a privilege can be taken away. If you don't follow the rules, you'll be threatened, you'll be coerced, and you'll face violence. In the private, all have equal rights and freedoms. No man is above another. No woman is above another. Everyone is equal. And they all have the same inherent freedoms. In the public, we relinquish self-governance. We give it up. And in the private, we're assuming responsibility for our own actions. So when you are setting up a private member association, you are 100% responsible for your own actions. That means that every action you take has a consequence, and it's up to you to make sure the consequences are positive. If they're not positive, then you have to do reparation and to go forward and seek forgiveness and to change. Public, we have created, it was created by government to parent the public as people needed to be protected from others. That's what we were always told. That was what we were raised with. That's what they tell you, that without the government and structure and rules, the world would be in chaos. And we would be killing each other in the street. In the private, it is about help and support each other. It's about moral and ethical actions to do no harm. We are created to support each other. Just look at what happens if you give children something. They will readily share with each other. You know, they don't want to see someone go without if they have enough, if they have stuff there that they can share. And then public is based on obligation. So that means that we are obliged to fulfill the contract that we got hoodwinked into being part of. And so that's where it comes with the public. In the private, it's all voluntary engagement. And that is the exercise of free will and choice. And that's why they are so powerful. PMAs are powerful because any man or woman that joins a PMA, that starts a PMA, it's all about expressing your free will, your choice, and your creativity, right? So what is a lawful PMA? And I'm not talking legal, I'm talking lawful, so within natural law, but also it helps us to keep out of courts and away from government. it requires paperwork. And when you're setting it up, it's best to have paperwork that clearly outlines the benefits of joining your PMA. In other words, I'm creating this. This is the benefit that I'm offering mankind. You're welcome to talk to me to see if I want to invite you to join my PMA. It is clearly outlining in the paperwork the expected behaviors of its members. There is a code of conduct. There are things that we expect the members to do. It also clearly outlines the consequences if a member violates the PMA rules. Remember, we are moving into the world where we are responsible and we accept responsibility for our actions. Our actions have consequences. So if someone joins a PMA and has not followed the rules, which they voluntarily signed up to follow, they violate it, there will be consequences. And they need to know that. It also, in the paperwork, we also know that the members are voluntarily joining the PMA and they actually have to join as a man or a woman. So it's not, I'm joining as a person, as a legal fiction. And then the paperwork will also say how the PMA is the PMA administration and how the PMA itself how it will hold themselves accountable to the members. So that's just a quick overview and gives you sort of the basics of a PMA. I think one of the biggest things about the PMA is that it comes from the heart. If you're joining a PMA, you are joining in to an association and a business model that is someone's heartfelt creation to better the world, to offer every man and woman something to help themselves. So it's a very powerful business model when it is used appropriately and when it is created, but more importantly, when the founder is standing in their power and they are actually there to not only create this, but to defend it and to defend it with all their heart, but more importantly, with a lot of knowledge, all right? Because we know that if you're challenged and you've got some cop knocking on the door trying to get in, first thing that'll probably happen is fear. Like, oh no, now what? And then the second thing that should be happening is that you quell that fear and you say, wait a minute, I have done nothing wrong. I am exercising my God-given rights and I am going to stand in my power and I will defend what I have created. So, I mean, you have to learn all that and it comes through, well, part of it comes through the training that I've created and that we've worked with in LifeForce Canada. But it also comes by learning about yourself and diving deep into your self-awareness as well. Okay, so that's my little soapbox routine.
Thank you so much, Laura Jane. Do you want to share the link to the course or the share a screen of the page?
Oh, yeah, I can. Well, yeah, I can do both. Just a minute here.
So I'm so glad you're offering this again.
Yes, what was going to be an online course, but I didn't have time to do the online. And plus, I think it's always nice to have sort of that live touch, particularly with this type of course where there's a lot of questions that's in it. So it's actually July 8th and 15th, which are Saturdays. I apologize. I know Saturdays isn't always the greatest, especially in the summer. However, we go through all of that I talked about, but in much greater depth. And then we have templates for, in day 2, we actually talk about how to get that paperwork in order and what you have to do to get it. And then we also have, after you take the course, you actually will have a private PMA Founders Telegram group to continue your journey. And with any luck, we'll start back on our calls because we do have alumni calls where we actually go through. And I think we just got the date. Well, we're just looking for the date for the next call, right? So And I see a lot of people who have already taken the course. So thank you. And anyway.
Thank you so much, Laura Jane. This is so great. Okay, we're gonna move into open forum. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to raise your hand, just like DK did. And we'll move on from there. So DK, go ahead.
Yeah, I had two questions. I guess the first one I'll ask to Laura Jane. Because with the PMA, I was just wondering, how do you think it would apply to things like domain name registration? Because usually, I don't know if you're aware, those are governed by ICANN and these companies. So what are your thoughts on that?
When it comes to a domain registration, if you already have, you're talking like a website, right? That you want to have a website.
Mhm.
There's nothing stopping you, because most PMAs, we're in a digital age anyway. So you're going to do most of your promotion and most of your attracting of your members, and also serving a lot of your members online as well. So definitely you can go ahead and do that. When you're registering it, I would not register it as a PMA. I would register it through yourself. You as, because you want to have control. Exactly. So if you put it in, DK of the family Flynn, then you're fine. That sort of thing. And many already have their domains. They're just moving them off. The only domain that is problematic somewhat is .ca, because they automatically put you into CRTC.
Yeah.
So that's the one that I'm finding is the only one that I might hesitate on with the PMA. But other than that, no, go ahead. Not a problem.
What about trademarks? Like, what if you have a brand name? How do you protect that as a, how do you TM that or trademark that?
Why do you have to trademark it?
Just like, so I've heard that people like, if you have a nice, let's say you have a nice name, a brand name, and you don't trademark it, and someone comes and tries to, even if you have the domain name, someone else comes and tries to claim it, even though you can, how would that?
Up to you. Quite frankly, we're moving into a world of open source, so I'm not so sure that that's going to be a problem. If someone takes it, then you can then go to them and say, look, you have stolen my property, and you can deal with them as a man or as a woman and try to get that way. Or you can always just decide to carry on with what you've got and that. But remember, you're in a private member association. So while you may have a domain, your work, your support is coming from your members. It's not the public.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a little bit different. It's a different thinking. Yeah. Good questions, DK.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. So my second one's for Karen. Yeah, it's about the MAID MAID situation, or I guess it's medical assistance in dying. What about if someone's like, and I'm pretty sure of course I know the answer for myself, but what if someone is really medically ill and at the end of their life and nothing else can be done for them?
Thank you, DK. That's actually what happened to my stepmom. My dad actually made the choice to have assisted suicide, and she made the choice. She had stage 4 brain cancer. And so I just did my own ceremony, spiritual ceremony, trusting that her soul was going to be taken onto a beautiful pathway, intentional.